Hi everyone, welcome to the studio. In this video, I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction to our space here at the studio. It's not going to be a really full in-depth tour about the different components of the studio and how each area is specifically organized and laid out. It's really just to kind of share the overall space. And it actually works out because we just had our first holiday open house. So some of the studios set up for holiday display with some other vendors. So it actually looks a little different than it normally would. But for this video, given a brief tour and kind of a welcome to the space, I figured it would be a good opportunity because the studio is super clean, as we had our first shopping day yesterday. And there's tons of pots and stuff to look at. So a little bit about the studio before we start walking around. It is just over 1,200 square feet. We're open to the public, and the majority of what we do is group class instruction, private lessons, open studio for more advanced potters, and then we do some kind of one-off pottery where people just come in to have a good time and kind of more of a social event. And then I'm lucky enough in off hours to use the studio for myself, and I'm a hobby potter. These are my pots kind of on display out here in the front. So yeah, that's basically how the space gets used. This is the entranceway. So the door coming in off the parking lot. And this is what you see when you come in. So this entranceway, which is about 16 feet by 10 feet, is kind of the clean zone. So no pottery making happens out here. We have a bench for people to sit and hang out or wait if they're waiting for their lesson. The desk, which is kind of a catch-all when myself or an instructor's here, can drop our keys, computer. It's also where our point of sale is, cash register, and our iPad for pottery sales and lesson sales. And then everything else in the big room here is working studio. So we've got 6 electric wheels right in the middle of the room with a dividing wall. And then all the shelves on the back wall inside are all for greenware. So once pots get thrown, they go up on the shelf, and then we can see there's a bunch of pots that have been trimmed, waiting to dry out to go into the bisque kiln. And in addition to the 6 pottery wheels that are electric, we do have 1 kick wheel, which is pretty much always set up as a trimming wheel, but sometimes it's fun to throw on that, or if someone wants to give it a try, that's what it's here for. And then the other half of the big room is our working table. So typically that's where glazing, wedging, slab work, hand building all happens, and the higher stools are usually all around that. However, for the holiday open house, we've got 3 different vendors on display, so that's why it's looking how it is right now. And then right in the middle of the room is the tool cart. So this is where most of the tools for hand building, for throwing, for glazing, all kind of live. So once they're cleaned, they come on back out here. And then any tool that's not out here lives back by the sink in the kiln room, but most of the time, stuff's out here. And then right behind the tool cart is our humongous Brent slab roller, which is awesome for any type of slab work, tiles, and anything. Wasn't fun getting in here and putting together, but it's a great place. I typically, too, when I throw, or after I'm done trimming and I have multiple pieces, I usually set them down on there because it's kind of out of the way. The slab roller doesn't get used all the time, so it's kind of a nice additional workstation. And then past the slab roller is our kind of material wall. So we've got clay on the cart on the right there. There's clay in the white bin under the slab roller. That's all our reclaimed clay. And then just to the left of the TV is our glazed tile wall. Because the studio is so small and people tend to enjoy working with different colors, we use all commercial glaze. So the cabinet to the left of the scale table is all of our glaze. And then just between the doors going into the kiln room and the bathroom is my cart. So when I'm working on pieces, I don't like them taking up shelf space for when potters come in. So most of the time my work's on here. Right now I think everything on here has been bisque fired. And then I've got to spend some time glazing, obviously. And then this goes right into what I call the kiln room, which pretty much houses a lot of the workings of the studio. So not just the kiln, which is in kind of the alcove in the corner, but also 3-bay stainless steel sink with storage above. So that's where all the buckets, sponges, tools that are drying. Bats live in the right bay under the bucket. And then the right wall is all shelves. So greenware lives out in the big room, and then bisque and glazed pieces live in here because it's easy to unload and load the kiln. It's just moving them right onto the shelf. So you can see these are all bisque pots that came out of the last couple bisque firings. And then as the potters come in to glaze, they throw them back on this shelf, and then they get loaded into the kiln. I've got my tool cart for miscellaneous tools when stuff breaks or working on projects here. And the kiln. It's all vented to outside. And then right now it's in the middle of the room, but it usually rotates around the studio, is the cart for reclaim. So we've got a cart on wheels that has some plaster bats for clay reclamation. So that's usually floating around somewhere in this room where it's out of the way. Then we can see the sink. And then coming out into the big room again. Have some storage under the work table. And then just to the right here is the bathroom. Nothing too fancy. Toilet and a sink. And then this counter and cabinet is all extra glaze. So glaze that's kind of overstock. And also some raw glaze, some powders, and extra test tiles, miscellaneous things. The door to the right is the utility room and kind of the catch-all. So my ladders live in there, extra wood. It's not a lot of space for storage, but it gets the job done. And then this is the door going to the back of the building. So that goes to right outside. So when it's nice and sunny and warm, I open up the door and have this screen panel which goes back in place so the air can come in, the sunlight, and it's great to get some light in the back corner of the studio. And then the metal cabinet houses kind of cleaning supplies, different tools, stamps, hot glue, kind of a catch-all because there's not as much closet space. And then we're looking back at the back wall again of the studio. And as I said in the beginning, I'll give a more in-depth tour about how the shelves are organized, how stuff is laid out, how the sink procedure goes, how pots are stored and moved. But just want to give a quick view of the space. This table usually gets used for cutting pots off of bats, wrapping pieces that need to get stored for people to come in to trim. And then the back side of the low wall are glazed pieces ready for pickup. And the last little area is kind of our studio library, and then my tools. So when people are signed up for lessons or classes, they can help themselves to any of the books that we have. We do have magazines over on one of the other shelves that I probably skipped over. But people tend to, thumb through the books for inspiration, get ideas, different techniques. And the green bin here is kind of my miscellaneous tools that I use for throwing, for trimming, packing stuff, different items in here, my stamps, and all of that good stuff. So I usually try to keep that separate just because I'm a little crazy with keeping my own stuff clean. So tend to do that. And then as you can see from the glare, I'm super lucky here because behind us, that back wall, there's so much wall space for pot storage. But in this front corner, I've got 2 huge windows, which lets in so much natural light. The door, and then back in the kiln room, there's another window that's a little higher. So there's a lot of natural light in here. It's a great spot. People love coming into work on their own pots because it's bright and always can see what we're doing. I think that's going to wrap it up for this quick tour of the space. Hope you guys enjoyed a quick zip around the studio. I know it wasn't too in-depth, but like I said, if that's something that people want in the future, I'd be happy to give a more in-depth tour of the different areas in the studio to show the different procedures and how it functions as a studio. I also want to do a few instructional videos on the wheel. I work mostly on the wheel, so I figured I could share a few tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. I've also been in this space for just over 3 years. So in those 3 years, I've learned quite a lot about how to keep a working studio, not only for myself, but a space where I can have, between 20 and 40 potters coming in over the course of a week, working on their own pots and keeping the studio actually functioning and running. So really look forward to sharing some tips, also hearing from you. If you guys like what you see, if you have ideas, if there's, different things you think that we can implement here at the studio, I would love to hear. So feel free to drop a comment below. Like I said, if you enjoyed walking around the studio, if you like the space, I'd appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. I'll have some new videos coming out, within the next week or so, or a couple weeks. And yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed. So until next time, have a great day.